Making bread pudding today with a beautiful whiskey cream sauce. I suggest these books from Ayn Rand. This is Read the Living, The Fountainhead, and Atlas Shrugged. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope everybody is doing great. Welcome to the Headmaster's Homeroom. I am Lady Hamilton. It is so great to be back with you. I hope you guys had a wonderful and a very Merry Christmas with your friends and your family and so forth. I know that I did. My husband and I had a great time. The first thing I want to say is I wasn't able to say the gifts that I had gotten. I will show you some of the presents that I have ordered and so forth. And I did put the huge thank you out on Truth. But it was kind of hard to have a show and to be able to sit there and say thank you and order from you guys that have been on my show. And I really not only love supporting you as much as I possibly can, I love promoting you. And it's just a true, wonderful pleasure for me to be here. But I will share those pictures with you later on after our interview with the guest. And again, my husband, he loved them all. So I'm very excited about that. And it's just really nice to have something that's made from you guys out there. And, not something that was just, everything was individualized, personalized. And I am so thrilled. And he was too. So a huge thank you to all of you that I was able to support. I look forward to being able to do that for many more times, right? As different gifts and different birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, Christmas, and things come out. So it was a real great gift. You guys all know I always play a game at Christmas time with my husband, where we choose a name that has to do with Christmas, and then we choose a color, and then we have to buy a gift for each letter of that. It has to be the color. So it's quite a challenge. But it's really wonderful to been able to do that and have this, new tradition that my husband and I have been doing for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years, So I love that. And it worked out really, really well. It was also a great pleasure to spend a month or so with you guys, creating all kinds of things, showing you how to do gifts, cooking holiday favorites, holiday drinks, everything that we can. I hope I was able to help you make your Christmas as merry as I could have. So welcome everyone tonight. One of the things we're going to do here in just a minute, but I want to talk to you about this evening. When we have holidays, and it's not just holidays, but when we have these kind of things, there are several of us that maybe aren't having a very merry season. I know I had some difficult times as well. I have other friends that have been going through some difficult times. But we know when you have these things and you feel like you're alone, this is one of the reasons I really wanted to have a podcast, is to show that we're not alone out there, that there are so many wonderful people doing so many wonderful things. And it really is a pleasure to bring as many as I can on here, whether they're a wonderful artist or they're promoting a book or they're, doing something as a new business or starting something in their community. It really helps us know that we're not alone. But it's difficult to go through things of depression, go through things of, being hurt or feeling sad or being alone, or maybe you don't have a community around you or friends around you. And I'm sick over that, and I know that we've all gone through this. Maybe not all of us, most of us have gone through some sort of depression. But one thing that really stood out is parents, and going through challenging times. And when I was thinking of this and I was seeing different things on social media of other people having this issue, I really thought about what I wanted to show for you guys tonight. And I have this interview that I'm going to show you, and it's probably from one of my very first episodes. But I thank God above for inspiring me, because I thought, how many people are going through difficult times? And this is the most wonderful woman I've ever met, who's written a great book. And her name is Brianna Ladapo. And we are going to watch her interview today, because that was one of the most special interviews I've done. And I know that the people who've watched it before, again, this is like I'm almost at a year here, guys. I'm so excited about that. But it's just, it means a lot. So maybe many of you have not seen this. Maybe there are some that do need to see this. This is something maybe you could share out with those that you know may need the help. And I'm going to talk to you about some solutions. I love to bring solutions and ideas. So we're going to be doing that as well. After the interview, I have an amazing new group that's going to be starting to help out you out there. I mean, you really are on my mind. You know that I pray for you every day, but I want to do as much as I can to possibly help us. So number one, we're not in those dark spaces. And number two, we know that we are not alone. And building those communities, those networks, and those friendships are very important to me, and they might be to somebody else you know. So I hope you guys truly enjoy this interview. But let's start this out with, a highlight. Let me add this to here, because we always want to start out with our wonderful, or maybe not always start out, but I'm doing that more often. And as I'm remembering, start out with something. If you guys don't know about my group on True Social, I love it. It's called Artist Corner, and it is phenomenal. I am getting so many wonderful people on there that are doing great things, whether you are painting or you're digitally making videos or you're singing or you're writing poetry or you're an author or all, photography, sculpture, you name it. I am so excited, and our group is growing so much. And it's a highlight both for you, and trust me when I say Ray, who helps me out. It's a highlight for both of us to look at your wonderful talents, be able to highlight you guys every day, and then you guys vote on an Artist of the Week. So this is really you guys and what you guys are loving, and I'm thanking you so much for that. I want you to make sure you continue to make sure you like, share, comment. Those are all tallied up to decide who has won for the week. And it really is exciting that you guys are getting involved, you're getting active, you're sharing, you're putting new things in the group. We have 2 things coming in January. Mystic Goose already started our Throwback Thursday, which was really fun to show you one of my very first drawings. Oh, you're right. Which, it's okay if it, that's how you start. You start a certain way and you just keep working, until you hone in your skills. And then we have our H2O color artist that's going to be doing with color recliner art. So I want you guys to join those and put those hashtags in, and also make sure you put Artist Corner, hashtag Artist Corner, so that we get to see those, we get share in this fun. And I really love these challenges. So if you guys, like I said, if you haven't heard about the groups in truth, there are some amazing groups out there, and I love it. And my group is called Artist Corner. It's an honor to have you guys all join that. It's an honor to be a part of that. And like I said, see your wonderful talent. So let's honor who you guys voted for tonight. So that is our Artist Corner. And let me put this up. All right, here we go. We have Sound of the Last Trump. It's just absolutely beautiful, his work that you guys are featuring here. It's just really, really gorgeous. Make sure you guys are going to check out. It's at Sound of the Last Trump is his hashtag on truth. Make sure you're going there and you're saying congratulations. And that, great job like you guys continue to do. I think that is absolutely beautiful. We'll just show you these. I mean, they're just really beautiful work. You guys are always bringing the most beautiful work. And so everyone, like I said, look at this. I love horses. I used to have a couple horses, and I just love horses. So I want you guys to, again, please do me a favor. Go out and say congratulations. It's just been a wonderful job to highlight our Artist of the Week, Sound of the Last Trump. Congratulations. It's truly an honor. And we'll work on trying to get him on the show. All right. Because that is really great. That's one of the best parts about this too, is I have you guys come on the show and you get to really boast about your wonderful talents. And trust me when I say that, it really does make my day. So we have that. All right. I'm going to load up. Give me just 1 second. Let me take that one off. All right, I'm going to load up this interview. Like I said, it has been pre-taped. It was one of my very first interviews. But when you're talking about healing and talking about getting out of these depressive states, to feeling connected, to talking, you can see even in this interview, talking with each other, finding the similarities, the common grounds, and building new friendships. I am really honored to be able to share this interview with you. So give me 1 second to load it up here. And there we go. All right. We'll give a huge shout out to everyone who's watching tonight. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I have got to add this to the stage and just jump a little bit beforehand, and we will get started. Her name again is Brianna Ladapo. I've put her information and her website in our permanent chat so you can find out more information about her. And I'll be here in the chats discussing things with you, and I will see you after this interview. So again, welcome and enjoy. I hope this brings some relief, comfort, and some happiness to you as we discuss being healthy. And I couldn't be out with you guys in the chat room as watch, but amazing. And to bring ways of healing, to take that energy and to remove that from us. It was just an amazing interview. It went a lot longer than we expected, which was my pleasure. And I hope that you guys are finding ways to work through the stress or work through the darkness, finding ways to heal, getting that negative energy off of you. And I am pleased to present this beautiful author who has written a book called Emerging from the Darkness. I have shared her website below in the description. I'll be posting links to for her more to follow her in the permanent chats below, to follow her on our social media accounts. This is definitely a book I'm very interested in reading myself, and I love the story of her journal. So I am more than thrilled to present this interview. Her name is Brianna Ladapo, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I'll be sharing an image at the end of this interview with her book, and again sharing out her social media. So I hope that you enjoy this. It's we celebrate this day of healing, this day in love for our Father, and it's my pleasure, like I said, to be here with you today. Here's Brianna. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to have this amazing new book. And so let's get to it. So presenting her new book, Emerging from the Darkness, a spiritual memoir and a guide back to the light. Let's welcome author Brianna Ladapo. Hi, Brianna. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm wonderful and so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, I was reading your bio as we described before on this interview. This is such an important thing, and one of the reasons I wanted you on Sunday is we were talking about healing. And we're in a world right now where there just seems like there's so many of us, no matter what our background tragedy is stress relief and healing. We've all been through some kind of personal trauma. Now, I know your book is talks about that, but I know that you also are an advocate and work with children and youth and adults that have been through very severe trauma as well. And I would love for you to take us through that journey of how you became who you are, a little story, pre-story. And then, I want you to tell us book, but if you could please start with like their journey to the book and what prompted you to tell us write a book, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. Part of those stories overlap. Both start with my childhood. I grew up in a family that was very, very religious. My father's side was fundamentalist Roman Catholic, and my mother's side was fundamentalist Protestant, to the extent that they believed that only their congregation, not even the entire religion, was going to heaven and the rest of earth was going to hell. And when I was born into this family, from the moment I was born, really, as long as I can remember, I have had a very close relationship with God and my angels. And I hear them just as I hear you right now. It was very real to me. And I had no idea at the time that this wasn't everyone's experience. So I talked openly about this with my family and was immediately shut down and told that I must be of the devil and that this was satanic and this was dark and evil and all of these things, which of course is very confusing for a child. Right. And then on top of that, where there was a lot of hypocrisy, at least as I see it, there are things that they professed to believe, like love, kindness, and community, but they were actually quite cruel. And so my childhood was deeply abusive. And this is, forgive me, it's a long story. So the shortest way I can put it is that I started to dim my light and try to become a smaller, more acceptable, less challenging person, because it felt like my very existence just made them furious. It was clear that they really detested me. And so I didn't want to suffer anymore. So I tried to turn it off. I stopped listening to my gut. I fell out of alignment with creator and universe, and I ended up going through an extremely dark time for many years. Lots of sexual abuse, lots of emotional abuse, just abuse of just about every kind. And what I didn't realize at the time is that my experience as a child and my experience that I had come in with, essentially multi-generational trauma that had influenced both of my parents' behavior and how they saw the world. I didn't realize I was carrying all of that too. And that was really, it was acting as a beacon to the rest of the world, an energetic beacon, and drawing more and more suffering as I tried to process through that. So, and I'm happy to unpack any parts of that. It's a very dense story, but fast forward many, many years, when I got away from my family, I went on a journey to really try and find myself. I knew she had gone missing. I knew I was wildly out of touch. And it's like my soul was screaming at me, but I couldn't figure out what it was saying. I just knew that I was in the wrong place and I needed to find the light. So I really embraced everything that I could. I did self-help programs like Landmark and Avatar, traditional therapy, really anything I could come up with. I traveled a lot. I studied world religions in an attempt to understand where they were coming from, thinking maybe I had missed something. And all of it was helpful. I feel like I got something valuable, like a little jewel from each different way of viewing the world, but none of it actually helped me with my trauma. None of it changed how much pain I was in. And by this time, I had gotten married. I'd met my wonderful husband. And it's worth mentioning that after my childhood, I swore I would never marry or have children, right? Because I didn't want to bring more suffering into the world. And it was meeting my now husband that changed that for me. But he was also suffering. He also comes from a deeply abusive and traumatic background. Some of our experiences were even similar. And as much as we loved and love each other, as you know, relationships act as a mirror, and they bring those things to the surface and they force you to deal with them. So it turned out that our love for each other was not enough. And all these things from the past kept creeping into our consciousness. And when we had children, that just became, it really exploded. I feel like, the level of stress our sweet, wonderful little guys bring, just by nature of kids being kids, it really brings so much pain to the surface. And finally, we were on the brink of splitting up, and neither of us wanted that. And we thought, okay, we have to find a real way to deal with this trauma. And right about that time, I had confided in a friend of mine that I didn't know what to do. I had tried everything that I knew of to try. And it certainly wasn't a lack of willingness on the part of my husband or myself. We were willing to do the work, but we didn't know what else to do. And my friend said to me, I know somebody I think you need to meet. He said, he's a little out there. I'm thinking, most people think I'm a little out there. But he said, take a look at his book and see if it resonates. And so I ordered his book that day. I was desperate for some kind of solution. And when it arrived, I didn't even need to open it because his picture was on the cover. And I had an incredibly deep and profound soul resonance. I recognized him. And I had never seen him physically before in my life, but my soul knew who he was. And I knew he was who we were looking for. So we ended up having a conversation, and it would be difficult to describe the level of connection. And so my husband and I both ended up working with him, and he quite literally taught our trauma. So not just to bring it to the surface by discussing it or try and patch. I feel like many modalities are more about putting a Band-Aid on it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And people travel their journeys at their own pace and their own divine timing. But we were ready to just finish this, to deal with it, no matter how ugly or difficult it was. And so we ended up going through a very intense process of transmutation and actually removing the trauma from moving that imprint from our souls. And the freedom that we both experience on the other side of that is profound. And now all we want is for everyone to have this level of freedom and joy. And that's ultimately what led me to write the book. Although even that unfolded interestingly. I thought I was right in the middle of the pandemic. I should back up. I had just had a baby. And I was trying to work from home while having this newborn, and my husband was working at the hospital. I was contracting with Stanford at the time, so we had a lot going on. And our two older boys were in kindergarten, or I'm sorry, pre-K and kindergarten, so very, very, very young. So when the school shut down, we had quite a panic trying to figure out how to handle that. And excuse me, I'm sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. And one day, my guide said to me, "You need to go away for 3 days and write your book." And at that point, I was thinking, what book? In 3 days? Are you kidding? I'm
Right.
not sleeping. I've got a new baby. My husband's not home. I barely had my head above water, and it's the middle of this pandemic. But if I've learned one thing in my life, it's that when I hear the voice of God, my angels, my guides, I listen.
Right.
So I told my husband, who is so wonderful and quite used to me now. So he also knows that when I hear the voice of my guides, I have to do what I have to do. And so I left them there in the middle of the situation for 3 days. And when I got to this hotel I had booked, I had no idea. I wasn't thinking about writing a book. And I really didn't know what they wanted from me. So I prayed. The night I got there, that's all I did. I said, okay, help me, speak through me, help me channel what it is that you want me to bring into the world, because I don't know. And the next morning I woke up and I sat in that chair for 2.5 days, and 300 pages came out of me.
Oh,
It was effortless. It wasn't even me. It just came out. And I had assumed that as soon as I left, it would be time to, make it lovely and turn it into actual prose and release this book. But all I heard when I got home was, okay, that's enough. Wait. And for 2 years, the only message was, wait, it's not time yet, which was a little frustrating, but I know better than to argue with this. So 2 years went by and a lot happened in that time. Joe became the Surgeon General of Florida. We relocated across the country. We both changed jobs. So much change, wonderful change. And the pandemic came and went, and of course left in its wake an unbelievable amount of turmoil. And last October, just this past October, my guide said to me, okay, go away for 3 days and finish your book. Just like that. And I said, I'm sorry, baby, I have to leave again. So I went away again. And when I got to this hotel and I opened the file that I had written 2 years prior, I instantly realized why I had needed to wait. And it's because even though the facts had remained the same, my perspective had changed so dramatically that had I written it 2 years earlier, it would not have been the act of service I wanted and intended to be. So in those 3 days, I more or less finished it. And then that was that. The rest, I feel almost as if it was ushered into the world because it came in with such ease and grace. It did not require much effort on my part, to be perfectly honest with you. It felt so clearly intended and meant to be, including the publishing process, which I had thought would be very challenging, but it wasn't, because it was time for this book.
Isn't that amazing? I'm smiling a lot, and you guys, this is a very kind of heavy hitting subject that we're going to get into. But the reason I'm smiling to some extent is because from what she's already telling in the story, it could just almost be exactly my life. And it's so similar that it's uncanny. And a lot of my guests, including my own life, in 2020, I always just say, boy, the creator was busy lighting fires under people. Start this, do this, move this. And it was just like, almost every guest says, well, during the pandemic, 2021, I started this, or I was prompted to, the Lord came to me. You're like, oh my gosh. And it was the same way with my school. I had no idea, woke me up. I was at some hotel, actually was at a conference with young ladies, and woke me up in the middle of the night, told me I was going to write this down, like, real quick. And then 3 months, I was able to build it. It just boom, 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 boom. You're like, wow. And I'm the same way. My family's so used to me talking to God that, they would be like, who are you talking to? Because I casually all day long, I'll like say something or answer something back, or I hear something. And they're like, at first, who are you talking to? God. Okay. And now, like, my husband's so used to that now, too. I have a feeling I need to do this. He's like, okay, I know you're going to, because of having that connection with God and my angels and my guides. So I'm smiling because of the similarities that we have. I'm almost going to tell everybody, you need to buy this book if you want to learn about my life, because it's so similar, even to the tragedies, even the growing up experience. And it's amazing because I was thinking, what in the world did that generation, have, that they felt this way to, if you heard something or you had that connection, instead of ostracize you, to say, oh my gosh, this child has a true connection. And then how that led me, having a tragedy in my life and having that led me through a very dark decade, I would almost say, before having to get my reconnect with God and find avenues. Even with my husband, after we adopted our children, how, like you said, that beautiful little wonderful spirits, right? But how that even stirred up more tensions, and we had almost got a divorce. We're very much on that point of that, and having to really go, we don't want that. How do we get this connection and work through this? And what you also said too is the help that's needed out there. It's amazing how the help, especially with my children, it was almost like ripping a band-aid every time they saw somebody new. It's like a revolving door, everyone. A lot of these centers are. Or are they getting somebody that truly understands or gives you a solution? I got so tired of therapists going, how does that make you feel? My kids don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you how I feel anymore. I need solutions to get through this. I need advice. We'll try this method, not just, let's just keep talking about it and just resurfacing the wound. And that's why I'm just like kind of smiling, because I'm so thrilled you found somebody too. But I'd love to hear more, but I'm smiling because it's just so much we have in common. And I didn't really know this, everyone. And it's like, there's just a reason I think that, you're on my show, that we got to meet and we're talking about this, because, I'm just looking at, God brought me like a soul sister, that's kind of walked in that same pathway. Not maybe all exactly the same, but I just resonate with your story so much because it's so similar to my background. I don't even think my viewers know that, but I'm just amazed at this. And it's funny how God will say, stop this or do this, right? Wait. Or how did that work out? I mean, especially if you think you're doing it, and you kind of go around to do it your own way, and it's not necessarily his way. You'll say, well, how's that working? How's it working for you? But it's amazing how fast things come through you when you do, and you just follow those promptings, and it's just flooded right out of you. I've always been told to write a book, and I've not been urged to do that yet. Obviously he's got another mission for me, but it's amazing. I bet you just were in probably utter tears by the time your book was done. Not only were you probably exhausted, but I would have been in like tears, just having all of that emotion, that story come out of me and onto, paper. I can't even imagine what emotions you were feeling. So I cannot wait to read this book in detail. It just, wow. It just really kind of amazes me. So I'm thrilled that you found this help. You want to tell us a little bit more about, is that still a connection that you talk about in your book, about this healing and how this man helped and what he did in your life?
Absolutely. So the modalities themselves tend to, I shouldn't say tend to, they could be wildly different for each person, because he meets you exactly where you are. So everything is very dependent on your personal trauma and that of your ancestry. And I have to say, I've worked with so many healers in my life, and I've been blessed to know some truly remarkable people. But my experience with Christopher was by far the most profound of my life. He is the real deal. I can't recommend him enough. I was blown away by his connection with Source. It's a beautiful thing. And so I can tell you about my experience. But my husband's, for example, was vastly different than my own. But in a nutshell, he uses a combination of ancient techniques and ancient beliefs, old Chinese medicine, lots of work with qi, and then more modern techniques. He has one that he calls body of light. And they're all so beautiful. And what really struck me about them was how resonant they were. Because usually, and I feel like you might be able to relate to this too, you go test out one body of work, and some of it's wonderful and feels applicable and comfortable and resonant, and some of it not at all. I remember one experience in particular. I went to a mystery school in the middle of my seeking, which sounded wonderful. And the way it was advertised and the channels through which it was advertised made it sound like a very spiritual group. And I got there, and honestly, it was one of the darkest groups of people I've ever been around. And I was out of there in under an hour. It was supposed to be a 3-day summit. So this was so incredibly in divine alignment and so profound that I do feel comfortable for once recommending him to anyone. But really, I feel like it's about finding the person that you personally resonate. So even if it's not him or it's not me, maybe it's someone else. But I feel like he finally, not only did he teach me how to transmute my trauma, and he helped me at first, and now I can do it myself. So when I have something come up or I have a bad interaction, and I feel like, okay, so what part of that was my contribution? Where do I need to look? What's still asking to be healed that I have not unearthed yet? And that has been so valuable, because now, no matter what happens, I have tools I can use and actions I can actually take. Now, I do feel like this is a journey. Absolutely. I'll be doing these practices for the rest of my life as I continue to peel back the layers of the onion, if you will. But my immediate experience was so profound. I almost can't overstate it. And those are the parts I really go deeply into in my book, is what I actually experienced and felt. But if we have time, I'd love to tell one quick story, because I feel like it will resonate with your audience. So a lot of my trauma was sexual abuse, lots of assaults. And I'm sure, I know I'm not alone in this. I know you've had this experience as well. And a lot of women out there, once they have one experience like this, it seems to find them again and again. And for me, it had gotten to the point where I expected it. And I almost can't believe that I'm saying that, but that's really where I was at the time. When I met him, it was typical. This is what I thought. And of course, I thought, oh, that's men. That's what men do. And of course, that's not the truth at all. That was my experience. And so the first day that I went to work with him, and so the first time I worked with him was for 5 days. And so I'm in my Uber approaching his place of business, and I'm looking for the address, and it's not on any of the buildings I see. And I realize that it must be the one building that's under construction, and the address is being blocked by those tarps. And of course, the building is covered in construction workers. And so my heart sinks, because I realize I'm going to have to walk right through these construction workers to get to the front door. And, you know, I've certainly had this experience before. I know exactly how it's going to go. And already I'm thinking maybe this was a mistake. But I decide, nope, I'm going in. So I put my head down, I walk through them, and they did exactly what I expected them to do. And one man in particular was so vulgar, I won't even repeat what he said. So I go inside, I go up there with Christopher, we get started. And so for the first couple hours, I'm essentially telling him what's going on with me, what my experience is. And he tells me that the first thing we need to do is start transmuting my sexual trauma, because it's really defining every interaction I have in my life. And so we just did a 2-hour session that morning. It wasn't even very long. We did a transmutation. We did a lot of talking. We did some soul work. And it was all very enjoyable, profound, and I had a lot come up. But I didn't necessarily think that, oh, that was life-changing. And he said, okay, go take a break, go have lunch. So, and there was a twinkle in his eye. I knew he was up to something, but I had no idea what it was. So I walked back down the hall and called the elevator to take myself out to lunch. And the elevator doors opened, and the construction worker who had been so vulgar 2 hours prior was in there. So to get into this elevator would be to put myself in this position alone with him. And I almost ran. I almost went to the stairs. And then I thought, no, you can handle this. I went inside. And the strangest thing happened. This man, he wouldn't even look me in the eye. He was looking at the floor. And I thought, well, that's odd. You were quite vocal earlier. And he said in a very small voice, almost shyly, excuse me, ma'am, I hope you don't mind me saying so, but you look very beautiful today. And I had nothing. What are you talking about? And I'm looking at him thinking, what in the world happened to you in the last 2 hours? So of course I'm thinking the change was him. What happened to you to change your response to me? And he never did look up. And then when he got out of the elevator, he tipped his hat, his hard hat to me, and walked away. And I thought, okay, that was very strange. So I walked down the street, and it was about a 15-minute walk down to civilization where the restaurants were from where I was staying. And I walked through several groups of people, some of them large groups of young men who typically would have a very predictable response, and situations that definitely would have felt threatening for me. And in every single instance, they were not just kind, they were chivalrous. They moved aside, they got out of my way. At one point, I dropped my bag, frankly, because I was so surprised at their behavior. One of them picked it up. They were respectful, and it was very confusing. And pardon me, I'm rambling. I'll speed this up.
No. Please go on.
Okay, thank you. So I got to lunch, and I was sitting alone because I was by myself, and there was one waiter serving the patio that day, and I could see how he was interacting with the people on the other side of the patio. And this man was clearly having a bad day. He was very cranky, quite cantankerous, biting the head off this mom with her tiny baby. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is not the kind of energy I want in my field right now. He came over to me, and this man could not have been more accommodating. He was a perfect gentleman. He was doting, and not in a sexual way, not in an, oh, I want something from you type of way, not at all. It was almost reverent, like he felt the need to be protective. And to the extent when someone walked by smoking a cigarette, he ran out and yelled at him to get away from me. And I didn't ask him to do any of this. It was shocking. So I walked myself back to Christopher, and I said, okay. Well, he said, so how was lunch? Like he knows something. I said, what did you do? What is going on? I said, the way the outside world just responded to me is like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. He said, well, we transmuted the frequency that was essentially inviting people to be abusive toward you. He said, you've been carrying it around since you were born. And then, of course, all of your personal experience only added to it. And you've been like a beacon. You've been like a lighthouse saying, abuse me, please. And of course, that's not conscious, but that is certainly what I was inviting at an unconscious soul level because of all this trauma. And so that experience taught me so much, because I had been on a healing journey for decades by that time, and never once had I experienced immediate, profound, and permanent change like that. Because we're taught it's a long process, it's a drawn out process. And I'm certainly not saying that that's not possible or not right for some people, but I couldn't believe what happened to me in 2 hours. And so, of course, the rest of the week only became infinitely more profound. And I do go into a lot of those experiences and the purging of my soul that happened, the connections that made themselves available. It was miraculous. And the only way I can describe it is to say that I could feel the guiding hand of the divine every second. And it was almost as if God was saying, this was my intention for you. You're supposed to be living an existence of joy and fulfillment and gratitude and happiness. And I feel like that's a whole other story about how we got to this point where we're all essentially walking wounded and traumatized. And you mentioned the generation before us that created this. And I've come to believe that it actually goes back many,
Further.
many generations, and it's been created and projected forward for hundreds, possibly thousands of years. And I believe that we are the pattern interrupt, our generation, or at least our soul tribe. I also feel a soul sister connection with you. And I think that's why we have been forged in fire, so that we could help everyone from here on out, because freedom and love and joy really are possible. And I believe they're the existence we were intended to have.
Right. I think, a lot too, and I'll tell you a little side story as well. So this healing and stuff with me and my relationship, and my husband came in my life just like an amazing angel that was sent to me, because I had prior traumas as well in relationships, and it attracted that energy. But when we found the right help that we needed, and especially for me and stuff in my journey, later on, because of what I was doing, I was able to go to a university, and I went on a study abroad trip to Cuba. And the first few days I was there, we'll call it catcalling, is probably the nicest thing that you could say about it. But sometimes it gets really horrendous. And when I went back, I was like, okay, how am I going to handle this, and re-cleanse myself and turn myself back to the creator and going, okay, I've got to fight this energy, because it's something that I think that you would agree that you have to continuously do. And it was the next day, all of a sudden, these same kind of people were the most gentlemen and apologetic. And I'm like, what happened here? And you've just remembered that it's the energy that you are putting off, and how you're expecting to be treated, instead of just like, I'm going to put off this so that you can injure me and you can attack me, instead of that energy completely change where they just would respect who I was walking down the street. Because, I was like, okay, this is pretty scary, whatever, right? I'm in a foreign country and there's all these men around me, and it was very scary, but it's just something that you continuously have to do. And I think sometimes, I don't think that God wants us to go through these tragedies per se, but he definitely puts us in these forging fires where he uses us to be a service to others. And that is the beauty of it. Like, because of this, like with my children, because of your experiences, I trust you with these children that I'm going to put in your care. And I didn't want to be a mom either, by the way. I used to, never do I want to do that, right? He's like, oh, you're funny, but then he takes our experiences and says, I'm going to trust in you to lead this charge. And it's amazing how that turns around, and so I love to hear that. And you can tell as many stories as you want to, because, on my show doesn't have a time limit. So I personally am loving, and I know my audience is loving to hear these stories from you, because they resonate with this. We all have this struggle or trauma that we've gone through, or our kids may have, or whatever, but this is so important to hear these journeys of hope and transition. So I'm thrilled. You can keep on sharing that with us. So don't apologize. I love it. I love it. If you want to continue, tell us more about your journey, or things that you've put in your book, or we could highlight your book. I could bring that up right now. I'll definitely be sharing that out also, everyone. It's already in the links. It's already in the permanent chats below, where you can absolutely get this book. I know for one that I am going to be definitely buying this, because I already am resonating with you on this, and it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Well, so, I do, it's all right. I would like to tell people, and we touched on this earlier, how so often when help is offered or sought, it's a lot of bringing up the same thing, but there's no resolution, and you end up feeling like you're chewing your cud all the time. Okay, are we going anywhere with this? Am I supposed to suffer forever? And so, while I do absolutely recommend the experience of transmutation, for me, it was incredible. I know, perhaps it's not for everybody, or perhaps it's not something everyone is interested in doing right now, or within their reach right now. So the entire last chapter of my book, it's broken into several sections, is all about tangible actions you can take right now to raise your vibration and create a better experience for yourself, or really co-create a better experience of life for yourself. Because there's so much you can do, even without any professional intervention or help or very specific skills. So much of it is about our focus, what we ingest, both internally and via the media, what we read, what we watch. Our diet is really important, proper
Yes.
hydration. A lot of it sounds so simplistic, but truly, it's very difficult to maintain a high vibration if you are polluting yourself. And I would call the mainstream media pollution. I would call, sadly, so much of the food in a grocery store that's full of seed oils and these toxic, inflammatory things, pollution. It probably sounds paranoid that it seems like there's a threat everywhere you turn, but it's because we live in a system that does not have a vested interest in us being well. Unfortunately, it's much more profitable if we are unwell. So I think we really have to take personal responsibility for every aspect of our existence, our health and well-being, our relationships, our child rearing. It really is on us. There was an essay that I read probably 20 years ago now. Goodness, I'm dating myself, but it was somewhere between college and grad school. And I love to read. I'm a voracious reader, but usually I absorb it and move on. But this particular essay has stuck with me every day of my life. And I think it was called "It's Just Us." And the point of it was, stop waiting around and looking to others, looking to external resources, believing that they have something you don't, that they're smarter or stronger or somehow better equipped or wealthier or whatever it is. Because we carry around so much of "I'm not enough," mostly because of our trauma, that I think we are programmed to believe that somebody else must know better what we need than us. When the truth is, there is no one who knows what we need better than our own intuition, our own soul, our own God source connection. We have all the information we need already. So at least for me personally, I find that when I expose myself to mainstream media and a lot, forgive me, but the garbage on, say, Netflix and a lot of, and then there are good things too, I'm sure, but a lot of it is not good. It is not our betterment, and it's not soul feeding. And you can feel that. Sometimes if I don't feel well, or I'm especially exhausted from being up with the child all night, I might slip a little bit and put on something that I know is not for my highest, greatest good. And within probably 10 to 15 minutes, I will start to physically feel ill. I'll get a headache, I'll feel yucky and think, okay, that's my guides telling me to knock it off because I know better. But that's all to say that there are so many things that we can do that require, no investment. Well, no financial investment anyway. No special skills, nothing like that you can do right now that will dramatically increase your vibration and change your experience.
This show here today, but if you've seen any of my shows before, you know that what she's saying from my story alone is 100% completely accurate. What we are putting in our mind and our body. So in 2020, as I'm teaching, all of a sudden I come and I have jaundice everywhere. I was paralyzed. I wasn't able to walk for almost a year. And my husband being a wonderful nurse, and we're going through all the testing, and they're telling me I'm dying from pancreatic cancer, and I don't even, or they think that I am. That was their suggestion. And I don't even really drink, maybe, maybe one or something. I mean, I'm so minimal. It was crazy. And my husband's like, what? But every test, every specialist, everything was coming back. She's in perfect health, and I was dying. And they were giving me like a month or so. We're getting down to like a month, and it was during COVID. And finally, my husband got a break because he was at the hospitals nonstop, and doing all that he can. And we just took a drive. We couldn't do much besides take a drive and go to hotels or something like that, which we did. I made a crazy little list, like, if I could have the perfect house or the perfect wherever or the perfect place, what would that look like in my mind? And we just made this crazy list. And in a matter of a month or two, God moved us exactly where I needed to be. And literally a mile down one way is a rancher who grows his own beef, chicken, pork, whatever, right, raises them. And then another mile is these greenhouses that literally raise organic food, not the organic food you get in a grocery store, but real garden fresh food. And eating it, my husband's first thing was like, we've got to detox you from all these pills, all these medications that get you eating as organically as we can get you to eat. In a matter of 2 weeks, the jaundice was gone. And I was starting to feel tingling in my legs. And I tell everyone on my show, I am not a doctor. So please don't drop all your medication and listen to me. This is just my kind of personal experience. But just even eating as healthily as you can, our actual food that's grown, that's not got chemicals on it, because my body cannot. Even if I go to a restaurant to this day and eat something in a restaurant, I will start having numbness in my legs again. Not maybe as bad, but I can feel physically ill immediately. And it's just amazing, because you were just talking about the toxins that we watch, the toxins that we're putting into our body. That's a great step, everyone. And on my show, I've been teaching people how to garden, how to store their food, herbs and stuff. My husband comes on and talks. His slogan is "Let thy food be thy medicine." Talking about what we already have that's going to help us heal, how to counter stress, how to counter inflammation, by just eating certain foods. And I'm just like, unbelievable, by just treating our bodies and our minds better. It's a simple thing to do, but it has so much impact on our lives. It's unbelievable. So I was also smiling. Like I said, it's like so parallel. It's just unreal. That's why I'm like, you just keep on telling us more, and then talking about simple little things of grounding. Most people don't know what even grounding is. It's just walking and being in nature and having our feet touch the ground, and surprising that frequency, how much that can help us de-stress. But I want to hear more about this process. Can you even explain and define that for my audience of what that means with the transformation, and the techniques? It kind of define that for our audience, so they know what that means and what that looks like.
Sure. And then I'm over here cracking up, because I have to tell you in a moment, I had such a parallel health crisis, which is what led me to this. I'm over here laughing. It's nice to re-find you, because I'm certain that we've crossed paths before.
Right.
But transmutation is literally the process of changing energy. So energy is eternal, right? It never goes away. You can't kill it, but you can transform it into something different. So transmutation, well, at least the way that I use it, is literally about changing energy of darkness into energy of light. So energy of the lower vibrational realms into the energy of the Christed consciousness. Oh, I just got all lit up. Sometimes I'll say something and I'll feel my guide. It's almost like they're hugging me. Just right, beautiful.
That's right.
It feels so lovely. Thank you. I love you. And so, of course, I guess you could use transmutation to describe any changing process of energy. But for our purposes of healing, always about changing darkness into light. And I've come to find out there are many ways to do it. In the beginning, of course, I had no idea what this even meant or how to do it myself. So I needed Christopher to hold that space with me, make a soul connection with me, and then literally walk me through the words to say to myself, to allow certain things to be released and to move out of me. There are also physical techniques that I suppose they look like stretching or regular exercises, even yoga. It looks like yoga at times, but they're very specifically designed to quite literally wring the stress and trauma out of certain organs where you're storing them. And that's kind of where each individual person's experience comes in. So I, for example, might be storing a remarkable amount of sexual trauma in my kidneys, which I was, and getting it out was very unpleasant. But I also cannot overstate the incredible euphoria that you feel afterward. And since this is probably a new idea for a lot of your listeners, this might help. So for me, one of my first experiences with transmutation that was not verbal, a physical one where, excuse me, we were getting into my organs and pushing trauma out. it sends this really intense amount of energetic vibration through your body. You almost feel like a magnet coming up against your the reverse polarity and being pushed away. It's at least for me, this may not be how everyone feels, but it was very physical. And the energy started to pulsate so strongly as it was releasing that I didn't even know where I was. And I started having visions, one after another, of horrific experiences from my past as they were coming up and leaving. And then afterward, I think I laid there sweating for about an hour. I didn't even realize that he was still with me in the room. He was just waiting, holding the space until I recovered. And then he had me get up and walk around. And I felt like a newborn calf trying to walk for the first time, because all these things I had been carrying, at least for my lifetime, possibly longer, trauma from my ancestral line and my own personal experience, it was gone. And I didn't realize that it was taking up physical space. And it was almost like I had big steel balls of metal in different parts of my body that suddenly weren't there anymore. And I had to reacclimate and learn how to move and be in the world. And I mean, this just went on for maybe 20 to 60 minutes. It's not as if this took weeks to relearn how to walk, but you literally have to relearn how to function without all that baggage. And it's a remarkable experience. Words are not doing it justice, truly, but that's probably the best I can do, because it's a divine experience.
No, you're doing a great job explaining it. And that's most likely why your angels are so happy with you, because you're doing a great job. And I'm just sitting here thinking, because I'm very interested in learning more about this myself. Like I said, I am very interested in getting your book personally, because it can still even help me. And I resonate with the fact of having to relearn how to walk. I mean, I still, I can do pretty good. I'm starting to be able to exercise normally now, per se. But people are like, well, why, when you start walking, why couldn't you, because you're learning how to reuse your body again. It was very hard on me to learn, I could walk a few steps today. I had to walk with a walker, and I'm just like, oh man, I would love that transformation to be able, that transmutation to be able to been during this time for me would have probably been a great experience as well, to just get those negative energies. And I'm sure I still store that. I can feel it. When you feel certain stress, you're like, oh my gosh, you could still feel certain baggage you're holding on to that I still would need to release. I mean, is it holding me back per se? No, but it can on some aspects. So I personally want to know more. But I resonate with how that would feel and how hard it is just to be able to have to relearn to do these things, or feel like I'm a newborn again, starting to learn how to, learn how to walk, learn how to treat my body, learn how to just change that energy. And that is no joke. And I also very much believe we carry from our ancestors. And you guys call it habit, you can call it genes, you can call it whatever you want to, but we just tack this on with us. It's like, if you never break the habit, you're going to train the next generation to have the habit. And if you believe in that, and that's kind of most the simplest way I could put it, is the cycle. If you never break the cycle, continues to go on. And that's a great way for me to kind of understand when you take it from your ancestors. But it could be, I mean, it's just generation after generation. And to release that trauma, I'm very thrilled to find out more about this.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share or help in any way I can. I truly want everyone to have a fully free and expressed existence.
Right.
And I have to tell you, I used to be a miserable, miserable person. And I wasn't even aware of it, because I pasted a smile on my face and I pretended to be happy all the time because I wanted to be unobjectionable. I didn't want to be hurt anymore. So
called it on stage.
Yes.
I was like, I'm on stage.
Right? Yes, my goodness, it wears you out. I didn't even realize how much baggage. I mean, I had all the baggage, of course, from my ancestors and what had happened, but I was also throwing rocks on my own back by continuing to pretend that I was fine. And so on the other side of that, I can finally genuinely say that I love waking up every day And I love the life that I have and my family. And I didn't think any of that was possible after the family I grew up in. I never thought I would be part of a happy family. I didn't know there were any, truly. So, yes,
And
yes,
you worry about that too. You worry, am I going to be a good mother? Am I a good spouse? I mean, there's still some times when, like I said, I have a wonderful husband, but I'm like, are we okay? And he goes, you don't need to ask me that. But you have this certain kind of like, am I? And you put your limitations on yourselves, or you put that baggage back on instead of just accepting who you are. You're like, am I doing this right? Or am I? Probably not. We all make mistakes. And he's like, basically, get over it. We're good. But we're doing this to ourselves, and he's like, well, where did that come from? I don't, you know what I mean? But we're doing this to ourselves, and we can absolutely put that baggage right back onto us. So how often do you have to kind of push that energy off yourself to this day, even going through these experiences?
And there's definitely no have to. I feel like you're welcome to do as much or as little as you like. It is, I do, I'm going to say this again, I don't have a better analogy, but it really is like peeling back the layers of an onion because there's so much to unpack. So for me, I felt like the intensive sessions I did with him, and now I think we've done 4 or 5 over the last few years, and every time has been miraculous, so remarkable. Layers of trauma I didn't know were still there. And that's kind of like the big bang, if you will, like that working with him directly or someone working with the healer directly really blows a lot of it right out. And so what I feel like I do now is I'm contending with things that either have not been gotten to yet or things I accumulate on a daily basis. Because yeah, I do have 3 kids and I love them more than life itself. But they're 3 little boys, so they're a challenge.
Yeah.
I don't sleep a lot, and I do, though I'm having a very joyful experience, there is a lot of stress, and my husband has a very stressful job and is gone quite a lot. And so I'm kind of a single mom during the week, and there's a lot of travel involved. And because of what we do, we both field a lot of projection from those who would wish to stop us and silence us. So I personally have a daily practice of sending all that projection back to the light. I do a daily stress transmutation just so that I'm not accumulating stuff, with the kids and homework and schooling and all these and work and just all these little things that are a perfectly normal part of your existence. You can't dodge them. Maybe if you lived in a cave, but I'm sure that has its own stressors. So it's just about learning to live with what is and adapt. And so I really feel a huge difference just shedding it every night. I do some stretches every day. I take healing baths once a week. I spend as much time in the ocean as I can because for me, the ocean naturally transmutes gobs of energy. I don't even have to try. It's lovely. So, but it could look however an individual would want it to look or feel. And if one meditation or one healing bath once a month is what you can do, then that's perfect. I feel like everybody gets to where they're going in their own perfect divine timing.
Yes, my husband is huge on meditation and has introduced that not only to our family. I also have 3 kids. And right, I was like I said, I'm just over here just chuckling, but they are full of trauma that is no cause for from us per se, but from their horrible beginning of existences that trusting, and even that, I mean, just building that with us is unbelievable. But these are traumas that I know for my own experience that you will carry with you for the rest of your life if you do not find a way to deal with it. And unfortunately, if you don't find a way or proper channels to way, you get to the point where you could become very suicidal, and we did not want this for our children. And so especially during their teen years, he really got into even just, we got to at least teach them, start them on meditation, because like you said, getting the right help, there's just so much out there, or it's a revolving door. And even though they might be good counselors or whatever, I mean, if they leave in 3 months for something different, the new counselor comes in and starts all over. And it's like they said to Mom, it's like ripping a band-aid. And we're done ripping the band-aid. We want to heal. We don't want to reopen the wounds. And so it's vital that you get the right help, but meditation is so good. And you're right about the ocean too. It's just something about it, being in the water, the sound of the water, the fresh air of the water is a truly beautiful experience. Absolutely. Um, Please continue, because I'm going to find your book here, because I should be showing that off, and I'm going to load that here, but let's see if I can share that with everybody. All right, there we go. Okay. This is the book that I know, for one, like I said, everyone, I am very much going to be buying this book. And I like to buy, and I'm very interested in all of my guests' book, but this one is resonating with me so much. And there's a reason I told you I needed you on Sunday. And we'll be playing our interview on Sunday, because this is a day I consider a day to the Lord, the day to my Father in heaven, and all about healing, whether we talk about plants or food or meditation, health, because the Father is so worried about us that he wants us to be full of light. He doesn't want us to live in fear and dark. And even the saying, emerging from darkness, right? A spiritual memoir, and guide back to the light. Everyone, even in my things that I share on my social media, I always say, in a world of darkness, be the light. So I absolutely just love this, and I love it's beautifully done. And you could get this, I don't know if you have a better way. Your publisher shared with us, Skyhorse Publishing, of course. You can get this on Amazon, from what I understand, but I really, if that's the only way to get it, from Amazon, okay, everyone, but I really love to support the actual, companies. Amazon's doing just fine, if that makes sense. So if you have a personal preference of where people could buy your book.
It is also available at Barnes & Noble, Bookshop, Target. I'm not sure which of these is better or worse, honestly, but most big booksellers online do have it. Yes, I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon.
Yeah.
Lovely, but I also don't want to be pouring energy into something that I think is ultimately destructive. So
that's why
yeah.
I mentioned Skyhorse Publishing, because a couple of our authors have just made a call to your publisher, saying you can always get it through that site as well. Is that the same with your book?
I really should know that. I apologize that I don't. I imagine
Well,
it
he's
is.
coming on my show before I air this, so I'll make sure I ask him. Yeah, Tony's coming on the 2 days before you. He'll be on live with me on Friday night. So everyone, we probably have already talked to him about where you can get books. So just forgive that this is a pre-recorded interview, but yeah, we're actually thrilled to have your publisher on before you. So everyone, but Amazon's a good one. It's probably better than Target. A lot of people are boycotting Target right now. But there's
Right.
Barnes and Noble, there's Amazon. All those links are below in our permanent chat, and in our description, so you'll be able to support our author. But I always like to make sure that we are supporting you the best way we can, versus a big box taking your money. We want to make sure that you're getting as much as you can, supporting our guests as much as we can. So I love that. What else would you like? Other stories you'd like to tell us about your journey or your book? Because the time is yours.
Thank you. Yes, boy, it's hard to know where to begin. If I would like to touch on my relationship with my husband now, just since earlier I did mention that we were on the brink of splitting up, and truly because we didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And that was before COVID. I'm losing track, maybe four-ish years ago. And now I feel so blessed every day, and I love the way that you were talking about your husband and the relationship you guys have, and how even when we have our own personal insecurities surface, because we're human, you have a partner that is there to tell you how wonderful and how loved you are, no matter what kind of day you're having or what you might have said. And that's what I feel like Joe and I have now. Our relationship absolutely transcends what was even possible before, because really we were just walking wounded. It was our traumas were in a relationship with each other, and that doesn't usually go well. And so now every day there will be a time, usually it's something in relation to the kids, where one of us will have had it and start to maybe not be our best selves in that moment. And inevitably, the other person, rather than getting wrapped up in that or being triggered by that reaction into their own traumatic reaction, now the other person is instantly able to step in, level out the energetic field, and say, no, why don't you go take a break? Or could this be affecting you? Maybe we should clear out the energy you brought home from your work or from my work. Or, did you have an uncomfortable conversation earlier that brought up some feelings of not being good enough or prepared enough or worthy? And whatever it is, now we can be partners in really helping each other advance and ascend and raise our vibration. And it's such a different experience. Looking back, I realized we were in survival mode all the time. We were living in fight or flight because we didn't have a choice. That's all we had, because we didn't have the tools or the experience to know what to do with all of that. And I see that so often out there. People, like you said earlier, people are in so much pain. And I feel like COVID and the experience of the lockdowns really amplified for everyone what was already happening in their lives. And so for a lot of people, life got a lot worse. It got very, very difficult. I think for a lot of people, as you were mentioning, is so common with, I think, healers and people of our, we'll call it our soul tribe, COVID functioned as somewhat of a wake-up call, at least for me personally. I didn't realize until it happened and they shut down the schools, and Joe and I were scrambling to figure out what to do about it, that we weren't actually spending nearly as much time with our kids or together as we thought. And we really thought we were. We had breakfast together. We always had dinner together. We always took our kids in and read to them. We thought we were doing all the right things. But somehow, probably because I grew up this way, it had never occurred to us that sending our kids away to somebody else for 8 hours a day was maybe not the best thing for the family, for them, for us. And within a couple of weeks, we went from out and out panic, what are we going to do, to having the greatest time. And I talk about this a little bit in the book too, because for me, it was a really profound experience. But I went from seeing my kids in the mornings and evenings and being so wrapped up. We did have a new baby and Joe was at work and all these, very reasonable reasons not to be spending more time together. And it seemed like life was fine. We went from that to, within a couple of weeks, spending nearly 24 hours a day together and having so much fun that I was ashamed of myself for not having done this earlier, for not having pulled them out of school. Or the other thing I'll mention is they were so little, it never occurred to me that I would need to be concerned about their school curriculum at that time. I mean, it was in the back of my mind that our values were not necessarily in alignment, but I thought I had years. I thought I probably don't even need to worry about that till second or third grade. I was wrong. Oh yes, very wrong. When we decided to homeschool them, I didn't know what I was doing because I had never done it before. So the first thing I did was reach out to get the curriculum from their schools, hoping maybe I would just continue that until I figured out how to go about it. But I saw things in the kindergarten curriculum that absolutely slayed me. I really didn't know, and I feel so naive, but the indoctrination is happening at the earliest stages, and it's very subtle at first, but it gets slipped in there in stories and math word problems, and they'll drop a term that is certainly not necessary to the learning that's supposed to be taking place, just to normalize it for children. And we had no idea this was going on. It was a huge slap in the face and frankly an enormous blessing, because I don't know how long it would have taken me to figure it out if things had proceeded as normal. So it was an education and a half, and we ended up becoming so much closer as a couple, as a family. And then the other families that we met as a result of the lockdowns, and frankly, they were easy to find. It was the other families who refused to stop going out, taking their children to parks and the beach and living their lives, despite the nonsense that was being shoved at us. So it was easy to make connections. And we had only lived in LA for a couple of years when COVID happened. And in the subsequent year and a half that we were there, we made better friends probably in the first month of COVID, honestly, than we had in our entire previous existence in LA. And those friends became family, and we created kind of a homeschooling community. And we celebrated birthdays, holidays. If we spent Christmas with these families, we went to the beach or the forest or the park every weekend. And we kept fear and panic as far away from our children as possible. And to this day, we are all best friends. Our kids are all best friends. Sadly, we've all dispersed because we were in California and none of us wanted to live there anymore. But we're still in almost daily touch with these people who just became, they were angels for us.
Love that. And I totally resonate with that because, I have a school. And I got to see this with my own kids. My kids have disabilities, and I've been fighting one way or another. And I didn't quite understand why I got these kids or so forth, until, like I said before, that I pray to get to know the Savior more. And it kind of took me through this journey of like a look back in your life and look what I've prepared you for. And so, but my kids, from the word, my son is legally blind, and their idea of was, okay, indoctrinate him, and you just put him in front of a TV and you're going to be nothing. My oldest daughter, boy, they started on her right away because heaven forbid she was a tomboy and she would like to create things, and just seeing this thing. But what happened to me after I built my school and we moved here is my neighbor's grandbaby. She's in kindergarten. She's 5 years old. And they sent her home with genderqueer as a homework assignment because heaven forbid she felt like she wanted to be a little fireman or she wanted whatever she was saying. She's very much tomboyish kind of little girl, and started with her at kindergarten. And then in first grade, her mom did fight that battle, it wasn't even, it is something that's mandatory in our libraries, by the way, guys, through the Arizona, the National Libraries Association. But she did fight to get it out of the teacher's personal classroom, and the teacher personally assigned that to her, and she, got that battle. So in the first grade, she thought, well, hopefully it's different, new teacher. And they physically told her, or literally told her, we not only want your child to start on puberty blockers, we want your child to be on ADHD medication. And you cannot bring her back until we have that and give us the medication, because we're going to give it to your child, not you. We're going to give it to your child. And this is in a little town in nowhere, guys. I mean, I'm in less than 5,000 people here. So if you don't think it exists in a small town, it does. I mean, there's 2 transgender plays going on before the end of the school year in my own local town. And California, we all know, is a wreck. I mean, you can abort the children after birth now, up to 28 days. And they just passed a law that if you don't let your children, even under 12, transition, they will take them from you. I mean, California is the worst of the worst, and it's just heartbreaking. And I sit there and I don't even have to ask. I know why. I'm looking up because I'm like, I know why you had me do this. And now I have our first second grader, and we're testing out second grade. And we started with high school because I felt they were the most traumatized, and they're about ready to hit the streets. And they're going to continue this circle if someone doesn't stop and teach them faith and give them real foundations and a real education. And then I don't know if it's fortunate, but I did teach 1 year in a public school. So I saw it on my own kids. I saw it at the actual school where they're just being pulled from these foundational classes to go to these SALs, CRTs, whatever. But these are through these title programs, and they're laws. They're not, it's not something we're going to be able to change right away. These are laws. The title programs are laws. So if you get that funding, the law says, you have to follow this way. And it starts, just like you said, starts very, very young. But it seems like they've upped the agenda. It used to be subtle. And believe it or not, these title programs started in 1972. And they've just been manipulated to now. I mean, they're full on telling my neighbor, you can't even bring your child to school, and we want to give them the medication. I'm like, and you wonder why homeschooling is so big. I'm a huge advocate because I understand little ones especially can't be in front of a computer. Well, they can, but they need, you always say, I'm willing to do it if you're willing to sit there and kind of monitor behind and talk to me. We need a break, or we need to get up and stretch,
And since we are integrated, you physically are getting things to work with, but littler ones have an issue with that versus your middle school and teens. But I'm a huge advocate with homeschooling, and we did the same thing with our children too, because and it changed our whole world. I didn't know what I was doing at first either, but I knew that what they were doing, even with their disabilities, I mean, with my son who's legally blind, I'm like, you're making extra money because with an IEP, they get like an extra $10,000 a year, and you're putting him in front of a TV and telling him that he's never going to accomplish anything. I mean, this young man's now in college. He's written six short stories, and he loves to write screenplays, and he's blind. I'm like, don't tell me that all youth are not possible. And I loved it. At first, I thought it was very hectic, like you said too. I thought it was going to be extremely hectic, which it was. But once I realized we'd go on these different field trips, we'd be out doing these things, we'd be learning together. My husband even turned one of our sliding glass doors and spray painted one side so I could have a whiteboard. I was like, are you kidding me? You're so ingenious. But I was like, and the kids look back at that as some of their most favorite times in their lives. And I'm like, really? I thought you guys would resent us for keeping you home or whatever. And they love it. They love the connection. They needed the connection. We need to be part of our kids' lives. And you can't expect an iPhone or a regular phone or Netflix, as you said before, to be the parent or the schools. I mean, and you say 8 hours a day, but think about the bus trips as well. So with so many school closures, my kids would spend an hour getting to school and an hour back. So it's 10 hours out of our sight. And so very similar. And I was really honored to be able to do this, but I love how God takes our abilities and gives us avenues that we can be a relief for somebody else, and I just love the work you're doing. It's amazing. So speaking of advocacy, because I was reading in your bio too, that's something else that you do besides your book, that am I wrong with that you're actually out there advocating for youth and I don't think it's only youth, but youth and adults that are going through personal trauma? Are you involved in groups, or are you out there? I'm just asking if you want to elaborate on that, because I read that and that might be misquoting that, but it says that you're an advocate and you're out there fighting in your communities, and I love it. I'd love to hear more.
Absolutely. And I have to apologize. I will have to excuse myself relatively soon because I have to be somewhere at 12:30, although I wish I didn't because this is so much fun.
No, right. And not a problem. Not a problem.
I definitely do. So I work with children and adults. I work with people on a one-on-one basis, but I do do as much advocacy as I can. I work with several nonprofit organizations. I primarily do these days work with children who have been trafficked, exploited, otherwise abused, because there's such a need. I wish there wasn't, but there is.
There is such a need.
But I also very happily work with adults, and I do what I can to help these organizations advance and get whatever funding they need, or frankly work around restrictions that are not in the best interest of their clients. Here in Florida, we've only been here for about a year and a half. And so I've had to get a new education about a new state and new laws. And I gotta tell you, every time we try to do something good on any of these properties for these kids, we run into bureaucratic red tape. For example, they'll give us money for health and wellness. But if we tried to, for example, we tried to create a community garden to get these kids help raise their own food and taking care of themselves. We tried to bring in animals, equine therapy. We tried to bring in chickens. Just to me, real basic, wonderful things, ways to get your hands in the dirt and get closer to nature and that God consciousness and really feel your soul at work. And to me, none of these were particularly out there or extreme. And we were shut down right at the pass. And they said, no, you can only use this money for medication or to Baker Act a child. So you can throw them in a psych ward or you can drug them. But God forbid, you can't talk to them under many circumstances. They can't garden. You can't play with animals. It's just heartbreaking. They are actively trying to prevent real healing. So frankly, the farther I get, well, the more I step away from the government and try to do as much of my own advocacy as I can.
Well, we'll
I'm sorry.
talk more about that as well, because I've had the same challenges as well. Even a reading program in the library, no. But I'm going to pull your book up because I know that your time, and like I said, I am so thankful that you spent so much time with us here. But please also tell where people can find you. Are you on social medias? How do they be able to connect with you personally if they want to know more, share your story, or follow you? If you could tell us, are you on social medias?
I am. I'm a terrible Luddite, but I'm trying to do better. So I am on Facebook and Instagram under my full name, Brianna Ladapo. I do have a website. It's www.briannaladapo.com. And on there are ways to contact me, ways if you'd like to work with me or speak with me for whatever reason, you can definitely contact me through there. And I think that's about it at the moment. I do have, especially for my Florida folks, I have several readings and signings coming up, and I will put those on my website in case anyone would like to attend. I absolutely love to meet and talk with really anyone, other human beings.
I love that. And if you want to forward that to me in an email, I'll make sure I post those underneath these as well and share them out for you as well and bring you some awareness of those book signings. I thank you so much for joining me today. You've been an absolute treasure to have as a guest today. And I just look forward to reading your book. I look forward to having you back anytime you'd like to. It'd be an honor to have that out. And everybody, please go and just share the book again. I'll be posting that in all of my social medias and where to find that. But I love that, emerging from the dark. We need to be in the light. We need to be in the light. And I thank you so much for your time, your dedication, and your true spirit of, I can only say, of heaven. You're just absolutely heavenly. So thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure. And I truly wish I could stay. I feel like I'm talking to family, but I would love to come back and just thank you for all the work that you are doing too, and for just the incredible advocate that you are and the beautiful soul that you are. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. And be blessed.
All right. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Wasn't she just had the most beautiful heavenly heart? I just found her to be a wonderful joy to have as a guest and an advocate for our healing processes and removing those negative energies and trying to find a connection with the creator, and changing how we approach life. And what's really things that stood out with me, everyone, were some things here too, where she said, finding a person who you resonate with, and how, we have been forged in fire for moments like this. But it really stuck with me, this finding a person who you resonate with. And maybe that's why God inspired me. And I'll tell you, I love the book, and it's an amazing book. And I really hope that you go out and you research it, buy it if you need it, recommend it to others that might be in need. And that's one of the biggest purposes of the show, is there's so many people out there that are hurting and need healing, and you don't know where to find it. Maybe you don't have the funds. And this is what, like I said, just this last week, I saw a different post being made, especially when it comes to parents and parents with challenging children. And that is interesting, because there are several of us out there. I can tell you I'm one. I have 3 medically fragile children that we adopted that also not only came with extremely, extremely abusive pasts. They have RAD, ODD, PTSD. I mean, anything you can list it with, they had, and trying to deal not only with that, but carrying these traumas throughout their lives. But there was no advocacy. I mean, when you're a foster parent, there's advocacy for the children and things like that, but there was nothing for the parents, and maybe you didn't adopt children, maybe you just have children with challenging disorders. Maybe they're autistic. Maybe, they were born with some kind of dilemma, and it is extremely hard. And where are those support groups? Where are those places you can go? I mean, you might be able to find them, and I hope that you can. But there's a lot of people that can't afford that, or, therapies. And like I said, with therapy before, sometimes those centers are revolving doors. And unfortunately, I don't know why the counselors don't stay, but they don't, and they move on. And that's another issue as well. But maybe you feel alone, and maybe you don't know who to trust, and maybe you don't have a group or a network of people that you could go to. So I have really been feeling heartbroken that there are so many out there that are struggling and looking for a connection, looking for a group, looking for an advocacy, looking for some place to be heard, finding solutions, talking to other parents, thinking maybe this worked or they've been through it. And so I am really thrilled, and I'm going to show you this here. Really thrilled to show you what's coming up here next. I'll tell you that God's activating me for obviously the next. Oops, is that going to let me do that? Sorry, everyone. Hold on. Okay. It's going to let me work. I don't know why my computer just frozen up on me, but give it a minute. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's try this again. Oh no. Okay, it is literally frozen. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. We're going to try this again. I don't know why I'm having problems. Not today, Satan. Oh no. Oh no. It really is not responding. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, let me try this. I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. I don't know what in the world just happened. Okay, there we are again. I don't know what in the world. So let me remove so there we go. I don't know what happened. Thank you guys if you're waiting. Let's try this again. All right, so I'm going to try to remove these. Oh my goodness. So, all right, let's try this again. Obviously, they do not want that out. We're going to try this again. Let me add this to the stage. And hopefully it lets me do this now. Not responding. Oh my gosh. That just blows me away. I have no idea why I'm getting kicked out or things like that. So thank you so much for being with me. I'm just trying so badly to share a new picture with everyone of a new logo, but I'm starting a new group. Thank you for being with me still. Hopefully everybody is still with me. Oh, let's see. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for being here. I'm just telling you guys, thank you for being here. Oh, all right, here we go. Sorry, everyone. I am so sorry. So I'm glad you could hear me, but I'm introducing a new group, and it's going to be called the Pressure Cooker. And it's a really beautiful logo. And thank you so much, for bearing with me. And I'll be sharing it out on my social medias as well. You guys look for that. It's going to be called the Pressure Cooker, a place that we can release some steam. It's a parents group for parents who have challenging children. And I want it to be a Zoom meeting, so it's a little bit more private, where people can come and you can talk to other parents. You could talk to me, my husband will be there, other parents that I know there, because there are so many that are dealing with something, and it's hard. And it doesn't seem like there's these avenues out there to help us. And no matter what you might think, you're not alone. And I want you to know that there are avenues that, you can go to. And if they're not there, then we're going to create them. So I'm starting a parenting group. And I'm going to be sharing that out. You guys can reach me on my Facebook and True Social at Lady Hamilton Art. You can reach me on Twitter at Lady Hamilton AR1. You can email me at ladyhamiltonart@gmail.com, because if you have that life and if you're struggling and you've gotten challenges and challenging children, we are here for you. And we're going to have a network where we can talk. We might share some stories. We might laugh. Whatever we're going to do, but we're going to blow off some steam. We're going to help each other, and we're going to build a community for each other so that we can, give those solutions, help distress, help remove those negative energies, because it's hard. I can tell you, as a parent of those, with children with challenges, it's rewarding. Let me start by saying this. Having and adopting my children is the most rewarding thing I've done, but it's also the most difficult thing I have ever done, because you don't know where these things come from. You don't know where the anger comes from, the tension, the stress, the trauma. You might know, but this is building up in them, and how they react is, it's very hard to understand, what you're doing. Am I doing this wrong? And the tension and stress it puts on yourself too, it's extremely hard. So I've had a few friends that have reached out, to me, and we've discussed this. They're going through troubles. I have been recently going through some issues as well. It's hard to be a parent, and especially those wonderful, beautiful babies that cause challenges. So again, guys, make sure you're looking out for it. It's going to be called the Pressure Cooker. And we are going to be starting this, and it's going to be probably bi-weekly. And again, I'm going to be sharing that out on all my social medias. So you can directly contact me so that you can, if this is something that interests you and you need that avenue, we are here for you. And I would love you to be part of that new group and community. So again, everyone, like I said, it's called the Pressure Cooker. All right. So before we go tonight, and I'm sorry for the issues, I have no idea why. Maybe I said right, but I don't know if you guys had heard me. I was like, not today, Satan. He doesn't want me doing things, He doesn't want me doing things that are inspired by God, but that's just too bad, because I'm going to do them anyway. And if I could be a help to somebody else, I'm going to do it. Service is probably one of my most favorite things to do. And I love the words of the Savior, to love and serve one another. It may be the hardest thing to do, but I'll tell you, it's the most rewarding. And I could, if I can do something to help another person, I'm going to do that. So parents, if you're out there and you're listening, or if you know of parents that need a group or need to have some kind of community, please let them know and share that as much as possible. And again, like I said, we're hopefully going to get started at the beginning of the new year. I'm kind of afraid to show you the logo, but it's awesome. You guys go to Truth, you'll find that. I'll be sharing that, if not tonight, probably tomorrow, and getting that out. All right. Again, Sunday, we're going to be doing something fun. We're going to be doing something on New Year resolutions. It's not going to be your typical, hey, lose weight, go to the gym. I found some really amazing ones, and I'm going to be doing a highlight of my guests this year. It's been a really amazing year. And I'm so excited for every single one of you that have been on this show. It's really made my day. It's made, just like I said, it's just such a joy to be able to celebrate you and your talents and your gifts and help promote you. It's a wonderful experience. And thank you so much. If you guys want to come on my show, please reach out. Same links, Lady Hamilton Art on Facebook or Truth. Truth is my main home, or Twitter is Lady Hamilton AR1. And all right, so am I missing anything else? I got to look at my notes here, everyone. All right. And I know I was going to show you, I'm terrified to show you pictures of this, but I did share them out on Truth. So I want to say a huge little thank you to my wonderful guests I've had on before, Ray and Kitten, Tools Mart. I have my beloved Brave. Be Nourished. You guys have all done some wonderful handmade personal gifts for my husband this year to help me do our little game, which was Psalm, and the color was green. So I am so thankful for your beautiful talents and your unique work. I really, truly appreciate that. And like I said, my husband absolutely loved them. So I am excited. Huge thank you. I think I've gone through all of my notes. I'm sorry I couldn't share that little logo with you guys, but it's a beautiful little logo of a pressure cooker. So again, and that new group is going to be called the Pressure Cooker. If you want to join the Artist Corner, please do so. That's on Truth Social, called Artist Corner. And I would love to see your talents and share those out. We've got a month full of you guys coming on from the group. I'm so excited that next Friday, we've got Anne-Marie Lobdell. Sorry about that, Anne-Marie Lobdell. We've got JC Violins coming up. We've got Mike Shelton and Ultra Artists this month. I mean, I am jam-packed with you guys from the artist group here on Truth, and I'm so excited to share your work. You guys are extremely talented, and it's been an amazing opportunity to get to know you and to highlight you. So I'm just looking at everything else. Oh, awesome. Okay, everyone. So sorry. I don't know what in the world was going on with that segment. All I can say is obviously when I'm doing something of service, Satan just really doesn't like it, but I'm going to pursue and push through and be here for you guys always. So let me see if I can load this up. You know how much I love, we're going to try to do this, how much I love to end with a video. So let me get this loaded up. Thank you, JJ. He just does a really great job for me. And this one is one I thought of when, sorry guys, I'm trying to load it up at the same time. This one I thought was perfect with this kind of situation, and How I Feel is one of my favorite songs. And I love it when children sing. So we are going to finish our show with this absolutely beautiful, beautiful song singing by children. And it's called I Rise Up. Everyone have a great evening. I'll see you Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show. It's been my wonderful opportunity, and I'll see you guys then. Broken down living life on a merry-go-round, and you can but so we gonna walk it out and move mountains. We gonna walk it out. Mountains.
In spite of the air, I will rise, we will rise, I will rise, we will rise. Times again.
Making bread pudding today with a beautiful whiskey cream sauce. I suggest these books from Ayn Rand. This is Read the Living, The Fountainhead, and Atlas Shrugged.